Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, as we prepare for the playoffs of the 56th season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. So far, 10 regular season races, 10 different winners. Now the playoff grid has been put together, and it's time to battle for a championship. I'm Seth Cole, being joined here by Michael Norman. And Michael, the task is back on for all these guys. They got the checklist done during the regular season. Now it's time to go to work for 5 more races.
Absolutely. It's, the pressure's on now. It's the playoffs. And not only that, but last week when I wasn't here, I was told we kept the streak alive of having 10 different winners. So, you know, what are the odds of that? I think now it's time for somebody to get a double win.
And you know what, we were talking about this before we came on the air. I think that we're going to probably see a lot of the former winners try and fight their way to the front here, because remember, a victory here tonight is an automatic ticket into the next round of the playoffs. And with how unpredictable these super speedway races are, you want to have that little bit of assurance heading into next week. Speaking of the unpredictability of Talladega Super Speedway and this series as a whole, when we went off the air last week, we told you that 12 drivers had made their way into the playoff grid. Tonight, we come into this race with 13 drivers eligible for the championship. The reason being, we found out that post-race, a driver did not serve an EOL penalty for an incident during that event. They subsequently got EOL'd, got last place points in the final finishing results. And Milt Surratt, who we mathematically had out of the playoffs last week, ended up gaining 1 point, mind you, just 1 point. That was enough to put him in a 3-way tie for the 9th position. He points his way into the playoffs. So Milt Surratt, a very, very lucky driver within a week of last week. He is now in the hunt for the championship, and we're actually going to take the opportunity to find out what was going on mentally with that driver this week. We're going to talk with him pre-race. Let's see if we can dial up Milt here just before these guys get ready to go green. Milt, it's Michael and Seth up here in the FRN booth. Have you got us?
Yes, I do.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. I mean, what a week it's been for you. You had the disappointment last week, coming up just short of making it into the playoffs. Didn't know that you were going to be 1 week removed heading into this race in the hunt for the championship. So I just want to know, first off, what was the range of emotions from then to now? Because obviously they'd have had to have been quite different.
Yeah, Thursday night I was disappointed with myself because I did everything I possibly could not to make it in.
Now, obviously, looking at the stats coming into this race, last couple of weeks, you've been up inside of the top 15. We've seen you consistently in the last 3 or 4 weeks running up there inside the top 5 in certain portions of this race. Now that you're a playoff driver, what is the goal here? Because Michael alluded to the fact, we've gone 10 for 10 in different race winners. It'd be a pretty cool time to make it 11 for 11 here tonight for you.
Yeah, I just need to be in the right place at the right time, make smart decisions on pit road, which seems to be my downfall, and hope for the best.
So what are you thinking about pit road? Is that going to play as much a factor here tonight in the, let's call it the opener of the playoffs, as opposed to the last couple of weeks leading up to this postseason? Because we've seen that it's been pretty long green flag runs, and pit road's played a factor. A lot of drivers in the field here tonight. So do we see something similar to what we saw at the beginning of the season, where it's going to be more a race of attrition and try and avoid those big ones?
I would imagine nothing's going to change in the pits. Hopefully, I'll have good luck there.
Well, Milt, best of luck to you. Buckle down. Going to be a lot of fun to watch you and the other playoff competitors here tonight. See if you can get yourself that golden ticket into the next round.
Hey, I appreciate you, Seth and Michael, and Jessica and Zach when they're in here as well. Thank you.
Milt Surratt getting ready to take the green flag, which will be flying momentarily. Milt's going to be rolling off from the 20th position, and that's going to be something interesting to follow here tonight as well, Michael, is the one thing that is staying the same from the regular season to the playoffs is that random drawing for qualifying. A lot of our playoff contenders getting the benefit of the draw of starting up at the front, but on the flip side, a lot of those guys are going to be starting towards the rear of the field. So, you kind of have to plan your strategy accordingly, and some of these guys here tonight might have had to adjust their playoff strategy.
Hey, all I know is I'm starting ahead of you, so that's all I care about.
That is true. Somehow, some way, the commentators through random qualifying make up row 6. So you will see a gap from row 5 to row 7.
You better include us in your starting lineup.
I just did. It's not going to be in the official starting lineup. But, we just were talking there with Milt about, the possibility of seeing a repeat winner here tonight. Who are some of the people that we're kind of looking at to be able to do that? Because, there's a lot of former champions that are going to be in this playoff grid. Obviously, the defending champion, Josh Metallic, former champions in Bob Seminara, Chuck McClure, Joe DeSpirito. Are the guys who have been here before the ones that we're looking at to rise to the occasion here tonight, get themselves the automatic trip into the next round? Or do we look at maybe an underdog story as maybe a Milt Surratt who just pointed his way in last week, maybe a Bernie Mobbs, Rodney Sullins, Kelly Causey, who got his first career win last week? Are these the guys we're looking at just based off of all these different fundamentals that we brought to light here with the random qualifying and the fact that we've had 10 different winners here this season?
I mean, if I had to guess as to who I would think would be the first repeat winner of this season, I'd actually put my money on Chuck McClure, because he knows how to be around at the very end, and he's put his truck there many times. In fact, he would be a multiple time winner already this season had his second win not come with a little bit of a controversy there.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Chuck McClure in the last 3 weeks, I believe it is, has had, no, actually been in the last 2 weeks, has had runner-up finishes. So obviously has been very close, leading down to the closing stages of the regular season to almost getting another victory there. So yeah, going to definitely keep an eye on that 17 truck, former champion in his own right. And he's got the best starting track position of any of the playoff drivers here tonight, as he's going to be rolling off on the outside of row number 1. Chris Elliott's Dodge is going to get the pole for this evening's beginning to the playoffs. Row 2 is where we'll find Brian Lavelle and playoff driver Brian Schilling. Another playoff driver in Grant Leslie makes up row 3 with the 08 of Glenn Harris. Richard Martin, playoff contender, he shares row 4 with Jessica Shelton back in the field here tonight. Kelly Causey and Bob Seminara, both playoff contenders. They're going to make up row number 5. Row 6.
Row 6 is me and Seth.
Yeah, well, that's on the grid, but not officially rolling off of the grid. Row 6 is actually going to be Ken Roberts and Cy Jones. Playoff contender Bernie Mobbs makes up row 7 with Tom Dixon. The defending champion and playoff contender Josh Metallic, he'll be in row number 8 with Curlin Hurst. Tim Nofsker and Milt Surratt, they're both playoff drivers. They're going to be in row 9 and row 10. Some more playoff contenders in Rodney Sullins and Joe DeSpirito. Jeremy Jeffries, he's a playoff contender, I believe. No, correction, he is not. He's going to make up row 11 with Greg Palmer. Nathan Balser and Mark Paglia, they're in row 12. Row 13 finds Terry Bombard and John Godfrey. Row 14 will be, lost my place, Bob Dixon and Jeff Cravello.
Wow, and you call yourself a commentator.
Row 15 going to be Wayne Pripnow and Jesse Klein, Wiley Coate and Dave Melson. They're back in row 16, and bringing up the final spot in the field will be Mike Rogers. 33 drivers scheduled to take the green flag here tonight. So, Michael, I'm going to ask you the same question that I just asked Milt moments ago. 33 drivers in the field. Remember talking to Josh Metallic, he says sometimes when you get over that number of 30 drivers, we tend to see a lot more cautions than when there's 30, 28, 29 drivers in the field. So what do you think? Pit road going to be the deciding factor here today like we've seen the last couple of weeks, or is it going to be avoiding the wrecks like we saw at the beginning and midway portions of the season?
It's going to be both, and I say that because we've seen wrecks coming onto pit road. So it's going to be, not only pit road is going to be the factor, but it's going to be just avoiding the wrecks and putting your truck at the right place at the right time at the right moment.
Well, 13 drivers will look to advance in the playoffs. There's another 22 drivers that are looking for a checkered flag here this season. Chris Elliott's Dodge, Chuck McClure's Chevrolet. Bring us down to the start-finish line. The playoffs begin for season 56.
Already bumping and banging. Side drafting. Let's see what kind of, which line gets the better run here. So it'll be the line that doesn't move around as much.
Got the
Chris
non-playoff
Elliott. Yeah, Chris Elliott trying to clear himself.
Yeah, trying to move up there in front of McClure, and he might have done so with maybe a little help from Brian Lavelle.
Yep.
Shilling into the
And
wall,
there
and
it
Glenn
goes.
Harris around.
Oh, flipping.
Wrecking
He's
further
flipping.
back.
He's flipping a couple of cars, sliding together.
Dave Melson.
The 08 of Glenn Harris, I believe, went flipping.
As did the Wonderbread Chevrolet of Dave Melson.
Tom Dixon involved, John Godfrey.
Both the Dixons. Bob Dixon was in it. Paglia got a piece.
Well, we talked about this happening. I didn't think it would happen this early, though.
Yeah, I don't know exactly if what I saw triggered the wreck. We'll go back and look at the replay, but it almost looked like Brian Lavelle door banged the 17 of Chuck McClure to stifle that outside line, and that might have been what led to the Brian Schilling truck going up into the outside wall, and that is a playoff contender. 1 lap into the playoffs, already in trouble. See if we can find out exactly what happens here. It was the Square D Dodge of Brian Schilling. That was the first truck I saw out of shape. Looked like he was able to continue on, and a lot of what we saw afterwards there with Glenn Harris, Dave Melson and company, I think was a lot of reactionary moves to what they saw up ahead.
It was. And you can see it too, but I don't necessarily think that's exactly what he wanted to happen right there.
Here's a look at it. Yeah, I believe that the 043 of Brian Lavelle, when he door banged the 17 of Chuck McClure, that bumper grabbed Brian Schilling off the back bumper of McClure, sent him up into the wall. And you saw right there the contact further back with Glenn Harris and company, which we will cover. Trying to pick out the playoff contenders that were involved in this one too. I'm not seeing too many of them by my count.
Might have gotten lucky there, these trucks weren't fully up to speed yet, so them slowing down to avoid something was probably a little bit easier than it would be if they were going full out there.
That's a great point, because I believe if we end up looking at this replay again, watch the 4 of Brian Schilling, just mere seconds before he ends up having the bumper grab between himself and Chuck McClure. I believe he is just then shifting into 4th gear. So yeah, these drivers were not up to full song just yet. That was pretty good impact that the 08 and the 038 are going to take you into the inside wall.
Hey, we've seen worse.
That's true. That was Wayne Pribnow, I believe, that flipped Dave Melson over.
We've seen drivers take harder hits than that and still end up winning the race. So
that's true. That is very true. So we'll have to see, especially for the trucks that flipped over, just how bad the damage is going to be, because if you get aero damage, roof damage, that can pretty much spell the end of your race. But sometimes NR is very finicky in what kind of damage is really going to affect your speed. Here's a look at the flip by Dave Melson. As Wayne Pribnow got on the brakes, he gets the wall and into the 038. Up and onto the inside wall. Then you saw, we'll cover this as well, John Godfrey and Mark Paglia, they got tangled up in the middle of the pack. Not certain how that neon green number 6 of Wiley Coate ends up getting involved. He might actually be a part of this tangle up with Paglia and Godfrey. We'll take a look. Paglia is going to get into the back of, I think that was Terry Bombard. Oh, Wiley Coate just got clipped by Godfrey. That's what sent him down towards the inside wall. Boy, he got on the brakes in time to avoid hitting the inside wall, but you can see that he must have hit a bit of grip down there, because that truck nearly flipped over.
Yeah, it was wrecks here. Even not up to full speed can be almost catastrophic, and just like that, it's very bad.
Caution out for the first time tonight before we even completed the first lap. That's an interesting thing too. We touched on it just a little bit here coming into this race, because it affected who made the playoffs and who didn't. But consider this. If you're a playoff driver near the end of the race and you end up causing a race-ending yellow, that's more than likely going to be a post-race EOL, and that's a lot of positions and a lot of points you gain. So I would say that these playoff contenders, especially when we get down to the end of this race, they're going to have to be what I call cautiously aggressive. You don't want to give up the spots, but at the same time, you don't want to force the issue, cause an incident that's going to lose you points also.
I'll tell you one thing's for sure, that everyone who actually avoided the wreck is probably breathing a sigh of relief after that. Like, man. And then you also got to be thinking, guys, it's only lap 1. Not even lap 1. It was on lap 1.
A little surprised that the 043 is still up here. I'm pretty certain it was his door bang that led to the bumper grab, but
They might not have called it that way.
Yeah, that might be true. That might be true. So he's right now still in that third position with Chris Elliott, Chuck McClure, the top two. Grant Wesley now in fourth. Kelly Causey there in fifth. Yeah, one thing that we talk about when it comes to playoffs, doesn't matter if it's a regular Cup Series, if it's a Super Speedway Series like this, is you want to have good momentum. We've talked about how Chuck McClure has had podium finishes in the last 3 weeks. Causey with that victory last week. I mean, obviously, some good momentum for a few drivers coming into this race, but does that carry over in a type of series like this that's so unpredictable? Looks like we have a couple of drivers that are coming down pit road and getting some more service done here. The 28 of Mark Paglia, the 4 of Brian Schilling, the 08 of Glenn Harris. They, of course, were all involved in the incident, but nobody out of the race and nobody a lap down. So it looks like all 33 drivers will still be on the lead lap when we go back green. If we do go into a long enough green flag run, Michael, we'll get an idea of just how many of those drivers, the damage that they sustained is going to affect them for the remainder of this race.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And these cars coming down pit road right now, that could play out dividends later on if this race does go green for a long green flag run. These guys will be able to go a couple laps more just by topping off the gas tank right now.
Great point. So the lights are out atop the Pace truck. They're going to get themselves doubled up, and we'll go back green flag racing on lap 6 of 66. We gave it the top 5. Bernie Mobbs.
I hope that's not a bad number.
That's, well, I mean, it can't be a bad number because you qualified 11th in the 666 truck. So
that's true.
Although, if we look at it from another side, you were 1 position short of the top 10, so that could be a bad thing too. But still,
it depends on how you look at it. Are you
it's a glass half full kind of guy? There you go. Yep. Who knows? To me, I drink the whole glass. Bernie Mobbs is going to be rolling off from 6th, 7th, Jessica Shelton, Bob Seminary in 8th, Ken Roberts 9th, and 10th, Tim Knopfsker. While we have the opportunity here with about half a pace lap still to go, we should mention about how the points are situated coming into this race with the reformatted playoff points. So Bob Seminara is your current points leader, 6 points back Chuck McClure. Then you have a tie for 3rd, Brian Schilling and Josh Metallic. They are minus 12. Rodney Sullen sits in 5th. He's 15 points back. Tim Knopfsker 6th, 18 points out. 21 points out in 7th is Joe DeSpirito. Then it's a 3-way tie for 8th, 27 points back for Grant Wesley, Bernie Mobbs, and Richard Martin. Milt Surratt right now is 11th in playoff points. He's 30 points back. And then Donnie Garrett and Kelly Causey, they right now sit in a tie for 12th position, 33 points back. And we should highlight real quickly about Donnie Garrett. We remember hearing from him a few weeks ago in a post-race interview that he was going to miss the regular season finale and the first playoff race. So no doubt when we see the 77 back on track next week, I don't want to say he's going to be in a must-win situation, but he's certainly going to be behind the 8 ball in terms of points.
Points are definitely going to come into a big factor here. You know, it's as we're coming to the green flag, you don't really think about it at much. You know, like, and take it from me, we're racing in a league. Like, I don't race for points. I don't think about points. I think about having fun with my friends out there and just battling. And yes, I know that I think we just lost Chris Elliott.
I think we did. Yeah, for a moment there, I was trying to figure out what was going on. The 9 truck has disappeared, the race leader. And so now the battle for the lead is between Brian Lavelle and, Chuck McClure. Now Chris Elliott's back. He appears in front of the field, now going to jump up to the outside, out of harm's way. Boy, that could have been really bad if he reappeared in the middle of the field. Very fortunate that he was still in the lead at the time that his truck reappeared back in front.
I'm pretty sure that made a couple of people need a new pair of underwear.
You know, I keep saying it. We need heart monitors on these guys.
Look at the amount these guys door banging. You know, it's awkward to see. Like, I mean, I know these guys used to race side by side and side draft and stuff, but just getting that close like that, I get trying to stifle a line, but you know, there's a one point where you get too close and we're going to end up having the same situation that just happened.
Is it basically the sense of urgency is ramped up now that the playoffs have begun? You have to fight and claw your way to get every position now?
Yeah, but not on lap 7.
McClure and Wesley have got
themselves
clear.
I'm thinking like a team owner here. I want to make sure the truck stay intact.
You don't want to have the big bill at the end of the night.
Look at Grant
Like,
Wesley up here. He's running pretty good in second place now, just in front of the 31 of Bernie Mobbs. And, we're no keen to seeing Grant Wesley up here up at the front.
yeah, and think about the road that Grant Wesley had to make his way into the playoffs. He missed the first couple of races. He was able to get that victory, I believe it was in race number 4 or 5. Was able to point his way up inside of the top 20, and we thought, all right, you know what, he's going to be fine. He'll win his way into the playoffs. But last week, had himself a top 5 run and didn't even need that victory. He pointed his way in through being in the top 10, which was important for him, too, in the fact that he was then able to get bonus points with finishing up inside of the top 10 in the reformatted playoff points. So pretty good job there by a driver within, 7 weeks, I think it was, making his way from around 30th in points to up inside of the top 10 with a win to boot.
God, just look at how close these guys. Guys, for anyone watching, if you have not raced on this game in particular before, what you're seeing here is very, very risky. When it comes to drafting at a play track. Yeah, I mean, we stress that enough, but just the way these drivers race is not the typical way that most casual gamers race.
And we ended up seeing a case in point back on lap 1. They weren't even up to full song, and it was bumper to bumper with McClure and Brian Schilling, and bumper grab took place even there. Now these guys are up over 190 miles per hour bumper to bumper down the back straightaway. And look at this, bit of a line forming on the top side. I saw Kelly Causey, Ken Roberts. They're going to jump to the outside of Jessica Shelton, last week's winner. Last winner in the regular season, wants to be the first winner in the playoffs.
I got to hold my breath this lap. I was talking with Jess earlier, and I playfully joked around that her engine was going to blow on lap 10, so I'm going to really be holding my breath for this lap.
2.66 miles of Michael holding his breath. So as we now watch a potential battle for the lead, Bernie Mobbs, one of the few drivers that actually pointed his way into the playoffs without a victory. How about that 31 leaf filter Dodge? What better time to get your first win on the season than here to advance in the next round of the playoffs? And he's got help. Seminaris down there, Jessica Shelton jumps down as well, and now we might be 3 wide for the lead. Tim Knopfsker, Grant Wesley, the yellow 88's up the middle. He's still holding his breath, but he can still make sound. McClure trying to block all lanes. He jumps down to the bottom. Kelly Causey with a big run on the top side. Help from Ken Roberts. Who's going to lead this lap? Momentum appears to be on the bottom, and McClure by half a truck length is going to lead that lap, but Causey's still up there on that top side fighting hard.
While I was holding my breath, I was actually thinking, if she gets involved in a wreck and her engine blows, that's still technically her engine blowing.
That is still the engine blowing. You are correct. It doesn't matter what way, shape, or form. If there's black smoke coming out from underneath the 48, you're a dead man.
I told you pre-race, Seth, to watch out for Chuck McLaurin at 17, and here he is, 11 laps in already at the lead.
Chuck McClure has spent a lot of this season out in front, but only one victory so far this year. You already documented, Michael, the EOL that he got after, I think it was the 3rd race of the season, and he's been so close the last couple of weeks of getting another checkered flag. Right now, you've got the top 4, 5 single file. Jeremy Jeffries, new colors there. The Kit Kat Target Chevrolet peeking his nose out of line. And look at this, Bernie Mobbs to the top side, trying to get the lead from McClure. McClure saw it coming.
Yep, and when you go up slowly like that, that gives the driver in first ample time to react. And when he probably went up without the proper momentum and allowed the 17 to throw the block on him like that.
Look at that inside line. Cy Jones, who just missed out on making the playoffs last week. He's now heading up the bottom line. He looks like he's got Bob Dixon there along with him. Also, Joe DeSpirito in the 24, making his way up here towards the front. DeSpirito started this race back in the 22nd position, one of the few drivers in the playoffs that didn't exactly get favored by the random qualifying gods.
Yeah. And sometimes just doing that, it's all about luck, and sometimes it just doesn't go your way.
Now, I'm watching a lot of our playoff contenders that did get qualified towards the rear of the field. They are slowly making their way up towards the front around mid-pack. One driver that I'm noticing seems pretty content to ride towards the back for the time being, and that is our defending champion, Josh Metallic. The last time by, he was scored in the 28th position, so might be of the estimation that you know, we end up having a caution come out on lap 1, we might not be done with big wrecks, so maybe a little bit safer to ride out back here for the time being.
Yeah, it very well could be.
Now it's going to be Grant Wesley. We're focused here on the inside of Jeremy Jeffries. He's leading the inside line as your top 5 or 6 are in the middle line. Now Jeremy Jeffries will drop to the bottom on Jessica Shelton. Jeremy Jeffries, not a playoff contender, but he's looking for his first victory on the season. Ooh, almost a little contact between the red and white machines.
Look at the scattering going on down the back straightaway here.
That was, I believe, Billy Ellis, or make that Nate Balser, who was swapping from bottom to top, and Jeremy Jeffries gets into Shelton. This is going to be a big one. Oh my gosh, Ken Roberts way up in the air.
That's half the field.
That's the huge one. This is the huge one.
That's half the field, and I my gosh, I am speechless. The 55 car went. Oh, I saw what happened. I know exactly what happened, and that's very tough.
If they were running 5th on back, they were involved in the wreck. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, there is no way around that. But I'm looking back at it now, and that's a case of Jess not the 8 car being right below the quarter panel, the 48 car, and the 48 thinking that she might have been clear. Just a wrong move, wrong call.
Go back. We're gonna have a lot of replays on this one.
Oh yeah, you can see it here. She has a moment. I believe her spotter might have told her clear, and when she was coming down for that, the 8 car had just got a push and was right there on the bumper.
Talked about the fact 13 playoff drivers in the field, but everybody else still looking for a victory as well, and it was contact between 2 non-playoff drivers. Ty Jones up into the catch fence. I'm trying to look for the playoff drivers. I see Grant Wesley up and over. Kelly Causey's right in the middle of this. There's Joe DeSpirito in the 24, so he was involved. So that's at least 3 of your playoff drivers collected up in that one. And I'm certain there were others.
Oh yeah, that was just the big one. That wasn't even the big one. That was the massive. No, it's not even the huge one. That was the massive one.
That was the everyone but 3 wreck, I think.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I can't even. Other than the top 3, I can't even tell you who's left.
There's another look at it.
Oh, top 4. Sorry, yeah, the top. Did he? Yeah, the 4 car. The top 4 got away. A 143 car got turned up.
And you know, you go back to talking about the late move there by Jessica Shelton. If you looked at that going into the corner, under normal circumstances of super speedway racing, you would be clear on the 8. But Grant Wesley gave a late shot to Jeremy Jeffries, and that's where he got that little last-minute burst of momentum going into turn 3.
Yeah, like I said, it might have been even the in-game spotter telling her that she's clear, and she wasn't.
I'm not necessarily certain that the spotter would even have time to tell you were clear.
I think it was more of probably saying clear and then not having enough time to say inside.
Take a couple of onboards with playoff drivers. We saw Joe DeSpirito was in the middle of this. Let's see just how badly.
After that one, do Tim Nelson. I mean, that was
on board with 24. Well, this is one of the worst places, too, for a wreck to take place, because you can't turn left or right when you're going through the corner. You can't turn on a dime.
Yeah, not good at all.
A very narrow area of the racetrack going into the corner, whether it be going into turn 1 or turn 3. Man. Very little room for maneuverability.
Bill was so close to making it through that. Just one bump at the wrong time. It was clear, and then the 00 just right there. And it happens just that quickly.
We will be keeping you guys updated here once we go back green of drivers affected that may lose laps to repair damage or may end up being out of the race entirely. Here's on board with the 088 of Tim Knopfler.
Man, Kelly Causey almost cleared it. Just needed a couple of more inches and he would have been fine.
Like Tim Knopfler. He might have been the only driver that was behind the wreck that got through it here. A heck of a job getting down to the apron. Little contact with, I think that was the 22 of Greg Palmer, but compared to others, he was relatively unscathed. Here's the onboard with the 00 of Kelly
Is
Causey.
it safe to say that Jessica Shelton might have pulled Tony Stewart? Not intentionally.
We're talking, what was that, 2012?
Not intentionally, of course.
I don't know.
It looked almost reminiscent.
It was kind of similar, yeah. Michael Waltrip giving Casey, or no, it was the other way around. Mears giving Waltrip that really late bump into the corner. Yeah, potentially. Except in this case, it was the 55 that turned into Tony Stewart. And I think our camera survived. We'll see if we can get an onboard with him. Actually, you know what? I don't think the roof camera survived, so let's see if the cockpit camera survived. Onboard with the 55 of Ken Roberts.
Yes, I think the roof cam survived.
Gosh.
Oh, I believe they. No, they're not going to go. So I went back, saw them doubled up, but I saw the lights are still on the pace car. So far, only 2 cars have retired: the 079 and the 55.
Would be Ken Roberts that we're just on board with, Nathan Balser.
Yeah, as spectacular as it would have been to see that car continue on, it would have been a miracle.
I don't think that truck even was able to make it back to pit road. I think he tried, but I think that engine didn't even have enough power.
I don't even
to get
know
him
how
back
the
to pit
tires
lane.
were still on the car.
A very good point. So trying to go down the list of the drivers that
Can we just go down the list
made it
aren't?
through.
Yeah, say let's go through the drivers that were not
I
involved.
believe they would have been Chuck McClure, Richard Martin, Bob Seminara, Bernie Mobbs, Glenn Harris, Brian Lavelle.
I don't know. I might have seen that the 043 get hit or turned up into the wall. Honestly, it's really hard to just remember.
We know Knopfsker made it through with that onboard. Little bit of contact, but not much. Basically, if you got out of there with just a spin, you were very, very lucky.
Donnie Garrett out here saying how huge of a wreck that was in our chat here.
Yeah, I think we ended up having that one wreck. What was it? About 3-4 weeks ago, coming to the checkered flag, where we had about 2 or 3 drivers up in the catch fence, and at that point, I think we called that our biggest wreck to date. I think tonight's wreck might have completely eclipsed
How many cars
that.
started this race?
33.
There had to have been at least 30 cars in that
Oh,
wreck.
at least. At least.
At the very least 30 cars.
Got another driver that just came down pit road and made the left-hand turn to the garage here, and that was Wayne Pribnow. So he'll join Nathan Balser and Ken Roberts back in the garage area. Those 3 drivers, however, none of them playoff contenders, but we'll have to see. It looks like Kelly Causey is going to continue on. 24 of DeSpirito is going to continue on. Grant Wesley is going to continue on, but we know that those 3 drivers especially took some pretty big hits there in that wreck. So now they're just kind of in damage control and hoping that this race continues to be a race of attrition, and maybe they can kind of role play as vultures and pick up positions and points here.
Role play as vultures.
Yes, indeed. And see if they can put themselves, if not still in a playoff position for next week, at least within mathematical striking distance of an advanced spot next week.
Absolutely.
Other thing we have to keep an eye on here in this race too, we haven't talked about it yet, but it's still going on. That's the Tally Challenge Bracket Series. The losers round is still continuing on with Bob Seminara waiting in the wings to see who his opponent will be. Tonight, it's round 6 of the losers bracket. Grant Wesley taking on Kelly Causey with both those drivers involved in the wreck. That'll be a fun battle to watch here for the remainder of this one. And then Joe DeSpirito taking on Chuck McClure. McClure, right now leading this race, was not involved in the wreck. DeSpirito was. I mean, how ironic is that? 3 of our playoff contenders, the 3 of the 4 in the bracket battle, collected up in this big one.
Yeah, I'm at a loss for words.
Well, we're getting ready to go back green. Lap 19 going to go up on the board. If we had remained green from the start, this would have been around the point where drivers would be considering when to make their first pit stop of the night. But so far, 2 caution flags have come out, and it's our second restart of the evening. Chuck McClure with a nice jump. Bob Seminara behind him was ready to go. Looks like Chuck's going to very easily have that top line cleared by the time they make it back around here at the exit of turn 2.
Well, so far the top three have all won a race so far this season. So
I mean, look how this kind of changes the complex of the front of the field. Now we got Milt Surratt up here inside of the top 10. Jeff Crivello, Jesse Klein, all of them took the
how
green from 7th through 9th.
how bad was Josh Metallic in the wreck? It's all the way back here.
Yeah, I was watching for him, didn't see him take a hard hit.
Could he have just gotten kind of stuck back there, maybe?
He could have. We're
Well, I don't
gonna.
know. Everyone up here is at 195, and he's only back here at like 180, barely hitting 183 by himself.
Yeah, we can already see a lot of stragglers here losing the lead pack. Bob Dixon with Chris Elliott. And then you've got Shelton and Jeremy Jeffries who got together there, bringing out that second caution. They're trying to work together to stay up with the lead pack. There is Metallic. Yeah, I think you're right. I did not see him get majorly involved in the wreck, but I might have missed it because he is obviously off the pace, it would appear.
With how hard of a hit that that Jessica took, I'm honestly again surprised that she's even still going.
Kelly Causey, Cy Jones, you saw back there. I'm surprised that Grant Wesley is up inside this lead pack right now, and Joe DeSpirito. So they might be trucks that have aero damage where they're fine if they're in the draft, but I don't know. It might be one of those cases if you get out in clean air and try leading a pack, that's where you start to lose those RPMs and start to lose those miles per hour, especially down the straightaway. Got another driver back in the garage area, Curlin Hurst. Has just pulled it down pit road, made the hard left-hand turn to the infield. So 4 drivers out of the race at this point in time.
I know
29 drivers still running. Bob Dixon's the only one lap down at this point in time.
I know how he feels. Honestly, I wouldn't this early on into a race with a big wreck like that happen. I'd pull it to the inside too.
Well, also bear in mind too, you've got the playoff drivers. They have still something to race for. But yeah, in the case of Curlin Hurst, he's just out here trying to get checkered flags now. Did not advance his way into the postseason. So if your truck's off the pace and has no shot of winning, cut your losses and bring it to pit lane, back to the attention of your queue in the infield, in the garage area.
Back to the attention of your queue?
Yes, it's your queue to come down pit road. Well, I think that big one scared these guys because we've only got maybe a few up on that outside line. Everybody is in the middle line here running single file.
Well, I don't exactly think they got scared. I think they might have had a big talking to.
Lure, Martin, Mobbs, your top 3, all playoff contenders. Then the rest of the top 5, Brian Lavelle and Greg Palmer, non-playoff drivers who would like to make it 11 for 11 in different drivers going to victory lane.
I honestly think 10 is going to be the magic number here. I really believe that we're going to have a repeat winner tonight.
I'm with you. I am with you. I actually
especially after that wreck.
I was actually surprised last week that we were able to go 10 for 10. I thought that, being the last race of the regular season, that somebody that may already have won their way into the playoffs was going to try and make a statement, get those extra bonus points with the second victory. So the fact that we made it this far really impresses me, but I'm with you. I think we got ourselves a repeat winner here tonight. And with that being said, that probably means the commentator's curse has come back and we're guaranteed going 11 for 11 now. There's 712 of Bob Seminara. Right now he scored in the 6th position, just ahead of Milt Surratt. 2 entirely different stories with those 2 drivers running nose to tail. Bob Seminara knew for absolute certain he was going to be in the playoffs. He not only had a victory, but he was leading the regular season points, got the bonus points for being regular season champion. Milt Surratt, as we documented earlier tonight, leaving Talladega last week, thought that he was out of the playoffs, and then based off of an EOL penalty, had just enough points to be up inside the top 10 in the final point standings for the regular season, and subsequently he was a last-minute addition into the playoffs here this week. So both of these drivers, 2 entirely different stories of how they got here, but the end result, the destination, was the same.
Yeah, only 2 wide now. These guys are definitely they've got to preserve their truck just to be there at the end of the race. I don't think we've ever had a race go where everyone wrecked out before the checkered flag fell, and after that wreck, I feel like it almost happened.
For those that are wondering how the playoffs work here for the Tally Challenge Series, after 2 races tonight and next week, the top 8 will advance into the next round. We will then run the next 2 races where the final 4 will advance into the next round. And I'll put the final 4 in asterisks because last season we actually had a tie for 4th place after the second race in the second round. Subsequently, we then ended up having 5 drivers advance into the final race of the season, and that's how Josh Metallic was able to take home the championship. So, again, it's kind of, you got to come back each week because the storyline from the checkered flag of one week could completely change by the time we get ready to take the green flag the following week.
And you see here Chuck McClure trying to control both lines of draft here as he saw the inside coming, and it's gotten up here. Now the outside lane dying off.
Yeah, Chuck McClure, you know, we've obviously talked with him the last couple of weeks with the runner-up finishes he's had, and you can hear the confidence in his voice. He knows that every time he takes the green flag here at Talladega, he's got a shot of winning. Oh, had some contact back there. Knopfsker and Godfrey getting together around the 10th position, but they keep the fenders on it and point in the right direction. We stay under the green, but Chuck McClure, it's been a dominating performance so far here tonight. 17 laps led by the 17 truck. The only other driver to lead any laps under green flag conditions was our pole sitter, Chris Elliott.
Couple of lap cars, they're passing right there, staying high.
That's Kelly Causey and Cy Jones, so that's trouble for the 00. Going to be 1 lap down here, not even halfway through this race.
I think the 00 is just happy that his truck is still running.
You could be right, and of course, too, an opportunity here if a caution comes out to get a free pass. If some other playoff contenders have to DNF, that's positions and points that he would gain on them. Kelly coming into this race with that victory he had last week, it did not get him up inside the top 10 in the point standing, so he didn't get those bonus points added to his total, but he is currently sitting in the 12th position in the point standings of the 13 drivers. So what do you think? If things don't change from now to the checkered flag in terms of his positioning, Causey could very well be a driver already going into our first elimination race that's in a must-win situation.
And that's just, but it's just how unpredictable this type of racing at this track is. You know, be terrible one week, be great the next. You never know what's going to happen here.
Well, there's a couple of drivers that I'm seeing up here inside of the top 10, Michael, that are playoff drivers that are yet to win here this season. The 31 of Bernie Mobbs, the 80 of Milt Surratt, and the 088 of Tim Knopfsker. So if we're looking at the streak to continue with 11 different winners, we might be looking at one of those guys, because it certainly seems like the odds are in favor of a playoff contender getting the first checkered flag of the playoffs.
Yeah, especially when you think about it like that, but it's hard to tell because you never know what's going to happen. It's so unpredictable here, and you know it's more of just, it's hard to commentate. Honestly, you just kind of want to sit back and watch what happens, but you know, and that's what makes this so fun.
Yeah, this series, no doubt, very entertaining. And I'm with you. Sometimes you just want to keep quiet and watch the action as it unfolds. Problems for that 39 Josh Metallic. You talked about it. Looked like he was off the pace, and indeed, he is going to fall a lap down to the leader. So that's 2 playoff contenders that are now -1 to the race leader, Chuck McClure. 2 drivers that are going to find themselves in, I won't say a perilous position, but they are going to be a bit behind the 8 ball as things stand right now, heading into the first elimination race next week. And how about Greg Palmer up here in the 22? A couple of weeks since we've seen him on the racetrack, and he's trying to see if he can be the spoiler for these playoff contenders and get his first checkered flag of the season.
Hey, it's happened before. It can happen again. It just edges out for to lead that lap as well.
He does indeed. Greg Palmer going to be the, I believe, 6th different leader here tonight. The other drivers that led laps under pacing were Jessica Shelton, Kelly Causey, and Wayne Pribnow. Pribnow back in the garage area as, well, that outside line had the momentum to the start-finish line, Michael, but something stalled out for them there between 1 and 2, because now McClure is back clear for the lead. Bernie Mobbs is almost clear for second.
Sometimes if someone's just not lined up right or has to check up, that can kill your momentum.
Looking right now at our telemetry, and there is another playoff driver that was involved in that big wreck that may also be off the pace now, has lost the lead draft, and that is Grant Wesley. Right now running about 10.5 seconds behind the leaders. He's in a pack of 3, but right now scored in the 21st position. Still on the lead lap at this point in time, though.
Yeah, the next drivers to go lap down, I noticed, are going to be Jessica Shelton and the car she's drafting with.
That'd be the 8 of Jeremy Jeffries. Right now they are running in 24th and 25th. I'm trying to remember when exactly these guys went back green. I believe it was on lap 19. So, you know, Michael, we're only, 6-7 laps removed from when these guys might have to prepare for green flag pit stops. So, you know, we talked about, was it going to be pit road or was it going to be the big wrecks that played a factor? Well, why not both?
I called it, didn't I?
You did. You absolutely did.
I love when I'm right. What? What's so funny about that?
Because it happens so rarely.
Wow, okay.
Anyway.
You didn't see it, folks, but I reached through my screen and punched him.
He did. I felt it. I felt it emotionally. There's those two trucks you were talking about, Jeffries and Shelton. They're now going to fall a lap down to the leaders. Trying to stay ahead of any other drivers that might have gone a lap down, just in case a caution comes out, because remember, not one, but 2 drivers get the free pass under yellow flag conditions. So right now, Jeffries and Shelton would be in line for those spots. I think the 39, I want to double check here. Yeah, Josh Metallic, he was able to latch on to the tail end of this lead pack, as was Bob Dixon. So it may be a 4-way battle for those lucky dog spots. If Jeffries and Shelton can hang on, looks like they may be losing touch. So Metallic and Dixon now move into the free pass positions, which makes me wonder, back to your point, Michael, when we went back green, if that 39 potentially just got stuck behind damaged trucks, and that's what lost him the lead pack, because it looks like now he's in the draft that he's perfectly fine.
It very well could be, and it's just something as simple as that can ruin your entire day.
And these guys, obviously, too, there's no choose cone or anything with super speedway racing. You've got to line up according to the position you're in on a restart. Sometimes you could be lined up behind 2-3 damaged trucks, and them not getting going stifles your entire line, and that might have been what happened with Josh Metallic, as we've got the 43 trucks lined up nose to tail. Brian Lavelle in the 043 ahead of the 43 STP Chevrolet of Richard Martin, who's going to get pinched down there by Jesse Klein. Richard Martin right now in a 3-way tie for 8th in the point standings with Grant Wesley and Bernie Mobbs. Obviously, that tiebreaker is going to take place tonight. I think the advantage right now would be to Mobbs, who's running in 2nd place, as Terry Bombard got shuffled out of the pack, and he's going to start drifting towards the tail end of this lead group. He was in 10th, and I think we've got some... Oh, I thought we had some drivers pitting, but nope, they actually ran the low line because they were catching up to some more lap trucks. That's Causey and Cy Jones both going a 2nd lap down. But it's going to be soon. What, 2 laps away at least maybe here? I think till we see these drivers dive onto pit lane. And one thing I saw these guys do in practice, Michael, was I saw a lot of these guys practice getting onto pit road, and they weren't doing legitimate practicing getting onto pit road. What they actually were doing was trying to see just how far over the edge they could go in terms of getting onto pit lane without making a mistake. And the success rate wasn't exactly all that high. So it'll be interesting to see if these guys will be a little bit more conservative here, as I think I'm seeing some radios lighten up here.
Yep, here come some of the leaders.
McClure, Mobb, Seminara in. Oh, there's a big group behind them.
Oh, there was before.
Oh, Brian Schilling around. He clips the lap truck of Bob Dixon. Everybody else avoids. Not been a good night for Brian Schilling. Was the triggering of the first caution of the evening, and now a pit road issue for him. Like Grant Wesley was on pit road the lap prior, as was Glenn Harris and Mike Rogers. Trying to see who the lead cycled around to. Looks like it was the 28 of Mark Paglia. Tim Knopfsker stayed out an extra lap also, and I think by my count, those were the only 2 drivers that stayed out there that lap. Now here they come to pit road.
From what I saw, it looked like McClure only took gas only on that stop.
Not surprised. Tires aren't exactly a premium here. Another reason why you also wouldn't want to take tires, this Metallic coming down pit road, is because if you end up having a pit road miscue with trying to take tires, that's going to lose you time and lose you positions on pit road. So better to avoid that scenario altogether and just do the gas and go. Fill that tank up and get back out on the racetrack. Chuck McClure trying to cycle back out to the lead. And he's going to. I'm a little surprised there that Brian Lavelle decided to tuck in line behind the 17. He had a big run with help from Bernie Mobbs and Bob Seminara, but he backed the throttle up and just stayed glued to the back bumper of the 17. Surprised he didn't keep that momentum going and try and take the race lead down the backstretch.
Hey, you can't save fuel when you're leading a pack.
That is a very good point. Didn't even think of that. And let me work the calculators here real quick. These drivers
they
now
have enough to make it to the end. It's
no,
just
they'd be
trying
able to make it to 56 to 58 right now by my
about 10 laps
calculations.
to go,
Yep.
roughly.
There is Paglia and Nofsker coming off pit lane. They would be the leaders, but now going to get passed for said positions by the 17 of Chuck McClure. They'll try and latch on to the tail end of this lead group. Looks like it consists of about 7 or 8 drivers. One driver that is at the tail end of this pack is the 24 of Joe DeSpirito. We kind of saw him hanging at the back of that lead pack in the early going there of that long green flag run, and now he's up here inside of the top 10. I guarantee you, probably picked up a lot of those spots with the aggressive pit road entry that we see him do quite often. We are more than halfway through tonight's race. If you're just joining us, it's the first race of the playoffs,
And everybody died.
a lot has happened. You are right. We ended up having a big wreck back on, I believe it was lap 13.
Stop saying
Involved just
big.
about-
It doesn't do it justice. It's a huge
It
wreck.
was huge. It was massive. It was ginormous.
There you go.
As Will Ferrell would
That's,
say.
that's how you tell a story.
And we ended up having a few drivers back in the garage area as a result. None of them playoff contenders, but we had about 4 or 5 of our playoff drivers involved in said wreck. We just worked our first round of green flag pit stops, and now, you talk about it being a story, you got to wonder what the final chapter is going to be. Is it going to be one more round of green flag pit stops? Are we racing maybe to a strategy timed caution? We'll have to wait and see, as it looks like we've got, I believe, 10 drivers up in this lead pack on the lead lap at this point in time. And by quick count, it looks like 6 of them are playoff contenders. Actually give you a full field rundown here of where everybody is as we close in on 25 laps to go here this evening. McClure's the leader, Brian Lavelle second, Bernie Mobbs third, 4th place Bob Seminara, Greg Palmer in 5th, Richard Martin 6th, Tim Nofsker 7th, Joe DeSpirito 8th, Terry Bombard in 9th, and Mark Paglia in 10th. Those are the 10 drivers you see right now on your screen in this lead pack. Rodney Sullins is right now leading pack number 2, if you will. He's in the 11th position. He's got Chris Elliott, our pole sitter, behind him in 12th, Dave Melson 13th, John Godfrey 14th, 15th place Jesse Klein, Wiley Coate in 16th, and then you've got a lap truck that is in with this group, and that is, I believe, or was, Bob Dixon. He's now losing touch with them. Then you go back to, well, you can't really call it a pack number 3, which is Milt Surratt in 17th place, and the lap truck of Josh Metallic, who is in one of the free pass positions right now. Then you got the drivers back here, Brian Schilling, Tom Dixon, and Jeff Cravello. This is 18th through 20th. Oh, I see some engine smoke. Someone's blown up on the front straightaway. That's Milt Surratt, playoff driver. And I believe the green is still out.
Yeah, he got
No,
off
the
the
caution's
track.
out now. Caution is out. Couldn't get it off the track in time. Yellow flag will wave. Everybody will get bunched up again. But what a heartbreak for Milt Surratt, who was that, as we mentioned, the late addition into the playoffs, and the engine has gone south on his Chevy Silverado.
That's a very, very tough break.
Wow.
Well, this could eliminate the fuel, I think. You think, Seth? Or is it too early?
No, I don't think so. It's still too early. Unless these guys do a tremendous amount of saving, or we end up having the yellow flag come out during that point of no return, which we've seen that happen before. I've got these guys projected roughly about 2 to 3 laps shy of the finish, even if they pit on the last possible lap of 1 to green here under pacing.
Ooh, that's going to make things interesting here.
It is indeed, especially if we are done with cautions here tonight. I think we're going to probably see everybody come down pit road here under caution, no doubt, even though a lot of them were on pit road just about 6-7 laps ago. Let's go back and see what happened here. And obviously, Milt Surratt, a tough place on the racetrack to have the engine expire right through the tri-oval. He tried everything he could to get that machine down below the double yellow line to avoid a caution coming out, but maybe just a tick too late. And race officials throwing out the yellow gets everybody bunched back up. And I believe, if my telemetry is correct, Mike Rogers and Josh Metallic, they're the two that are going to be in line for the lucky dog here. So, bit of a second chance given to the defending champ in the 39.
We should have a decent amount of caution laps here. Cutting off, saving, and even coming in the pit on the 1 to go, or coming to the 1 to go. Like,
Got that
I don't
extra
know.
pace lap with the lap machines as well.
Remember, as Larry Mack says, 1 lap under caution is or was is it right? Is like 2 laps under green or something like that.
That's true. However, no NASCAR race has ever been run under 2 times fuel consumption, so that is slightly different here in this race.
True.
But that is a tough break there. We had, up to this point, not had any of our playoff contenders, despite a number of them being involved in that big wreck, going to the garage area. Milt Surratt appears that he is going to be the first. Here's the onboard with the 80. You'll just hear the engine go south. One has to wonder what led to this too. Was it maybe a accidental downshift? I think he did get a little bit of that big wreck earlier, so was it damage from that led to the engine going south? Or a lot of times too in super speedway racing, you just end up having that random engine failure. You don't know who it's going to be or when it's going to be, but sometimes more often than not it does happen. So not sure what the circumstances were, but that is such a tough break there once again for Milt Surratt, the driver of the 80 truck, as that's going to bring first race of his playoffs journey to an early end. Right now, he's still sitting on pit road. Usually when there's an engine failure, there's no way you're going to get back out onto the racetrack. But one driver that I'm looking at here, I'm not certain how this happened. On my telemetry, it had him retired out of the race, but now it is showing him on track and running. That's the 93 of Curlin Hurst, 24 laps down. Let's see if he actually is out on the racetrack or not.
Make sure your game is live. That might be a factor too.
Cycling through the field, I don't see the 93, so I'm not certain what that's about.
Check, is your game live?
It is.
Could be a glitch.
Could be a glitch. Because by my last count, it showed him out of the race. And I don't see him on the racetrack right now. Unless it might be a case of maybe my scoring, if he came back into the server maybe to observe what's going on. Maybe it has him scored as still in the race. I'm not sure what it is. But you see a number of drivers here. Bob Dixon, Jeremy Jeffries, Cy Jones, Jessica Shelton ahead of the leader, Chuck McClure. We talked about the 2 drivers that are the beneficiaries of the Lucky Dog. These 4 are going to go for the wave around. And this will put, I believe, Cy Jones at 1 lap down, Shelton and Jeffries on the lead lap, and Dixon at 1 lap down. I don't know. I mentioned the fact that these guys were on pit road only 7, 8 laps ago. So what do you think, Michael? They all are, it appears, off the pace. But you like this call to just get that track position back, get back on the lead lap for the 8 and the 48, and maybe pick up some spots here in the closing stages?
It could be a good call. I'm assuming that they're banking on another caution coming out because it took them what, 8 laps, 7, 8 laps to get lapped. So they're probably hoping for another very early caution.
There's your lucky dog drivers there up on the top side, the 39 and the 011, Metallic and Rogers. And officially now, they have pushed the 80 truck back into the garage area. Engine valve, the cause of the DNF for Milt Surratt. So Milt, much like potentially Kelly Causey and maybe even Grant Wesley, who we saw off the pace, these could be a couple of drivers heading into next week, our first elimination race of the playoffs that could be in a must-win situation. And was that Chuck McClure in the 17 that just made a late dive onto pit road from the race lead? I think it was.
He's trying something.
How about that? He's led 33 laps here tonight, been enjoying the clean air out in front, and now running the risk of putting himself back in traffic, maybe potentially for a strategic call. Maybe planning on coming down pit road for the final time tonight. Who knows? That's going to turn the lead over to playoff contender Bernie Mobbs, who is looking for his first win on the season. It'll put Bob Seminara to his outside for this upcoming restart. Joe DeSpirito will line up in third. Greg Palmer fourth. Chris Elliott, the pole sitters, now back up in fifth. Richard Martin sixth. Rodney Sullins in seventh. Then John Godfrey, Glenn Harris, and Tom Dixon up inside the top 10 for the first time here tonight for this upcoming restart, which is going to be right on the nose, 20 laps to go. You see the trucks kind of bogged down into the racetrack there. They are clutching. They're throwing in the clutch. They're trying to save fuel here down the back straightaway. But these guys might potentially be planning that they're not going to be coming back to pit road for the rest of this race. Chuck McClure wanted to make absolutely certain that he could potentially make it on fuel.
They threw the caution lights back on.
They are indeed back on, and see if we can find out why that is. Oh, the 10 is, yeah, the 10 of Terry Bombard has stopped. Here's that, we're hearing that his game is frozen. So that extra lap, Michael, ooh, that could be a godsend for some of these guys that are currently clutching.
Oh yeah, we'll see if any more take a dive down pit road. Second chance.
See if the 10's able to get it refired and roll off of pit road, or off of turn 2 rather. And look at this. Got some more takers on pit road here with this extra lap of caution. Chris Elliott, Rodney Sullins, John Godfrey, Glenn Harris, Mark Paglia. They're going to come down, top off the fuel tank. I mean, we're going to be going back green now with 19 to go. That's really our number, isn't it? Of what these guys can make it on a tank of fuel. We hear anywhere from 19 to potentially 21 laps, depending on how much fuel you save on a green flag run. So,
and this is going to be cutting it so close.
This is going to be interesting. Now, bear in mind, if a caution comes out between now and the finish, that completely changes the aspect of the story as well. Everybody will be able to make it on fuel. But if we stay green from here to the checkered flag, folks, our season opener ended with Chuck McClure coasting to the start-finish line to pick up the first checkered flag on the season. Our playoffs could open up the same way, and tough break there for Terry Bombard. It looks like for purposes of making sure we could go back green, they have escorted the 10 off of the racetrack, so he will probably be finishing somewhere around the 27th position or so. That's a tough break there. You know, obviously something technological that's out of his control, and he was running up in the lead pack there before that caution came out, up inside of the top 10, and not exactly going to reflect the day that he was having in the finishing results.
No, not at all.
So we'll rack him up, try it again. Like the 24 a couple of times has been pulling up the back bumper. The 31 might be giving him a little bit of a push as he coasts it through the entry of the corners. Also trying to look back a little bit further at some of those drivers that came down pit road, see if even they are clutching to get that little bit of extra, just in case they are right on the number of making it to the checkered flag. Pace truck gonna make the left-hand turn to pit road. 19 laps of racing here to finish out the playoffs opener here in the 56th season of the Talladega Challenge. Bernie Mobbs has the field in his possession, leads us down into the restart zone, and we get ready to go back green flag racing at Talladega. A little bit of a late green there as they were almost to the start finish line, but Seminara was ready for it, as was Despirito, and Bernie Mobbs gonna edge ahead into turn one.
We'll see how long he can hold it. They're already trying to make a move to the outside, and he goes up to block.
Now lined up, 1, 2, 3. That's the Florida gang there. Mobbs, Spirito, Seminara. Then Greg Palmer shoving the 712 into the back bumper. The 24, almost a chain bump reaction into the entry of turn 3.
Gotta be careful with that too.
Boy, Richard Martin trying to slide up in front of Tom Dixon for the 5th position, and he'll do so. Remember, you were talking about not giving room, the aggressive racing that we saw at the beginning of this race. I think we're going to see a little bit more of that here the closer we get to the end of this race, as already Chuck McClure, who came down pit road, lost a bunch of track position to topped off that fuel tank. Once again, he's already up to the 6th position, getting around Tom Dixon. The 17 is flying.
He's at the tail end of this pack. This single file pack here.
And there's Brian Schilling in the 4. What an adventurous day he's had. Got bumper grabbed off McClure in turn 2 on the first lap of this race, bringing out the first caution. Had a spin on pit road entry during our only round of green flag pit stops up to this point. And he's up here inside of the top 10. Last time by, scored in 7th place. What's the old adage? You never give up no matter how bad things get.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to learn from that. Why do you always laugh at me?
Because I know you. I've raced with you. You need to not have fun.
Right? It's an inside joke for anybody wondering.
That is true. Grant Wesley, last time by, scored in the 12th position. Big run with the 038 of Dave Melson behind him. They drafted up to the back of the lap machine. That is Bob Dixon, who is right now in the free pass position, one of the 2 free pass positions. Should we get a caution, appears to be up to speed as long as he's in the draft. Grant, we know, has got some damage from that big wreck earlier on.
About 16 laps to go.
16 to go. For the most part, we believe everybody can make it on fuel, as Tom Dixon may be bowing out of this lead pack. He moved low. Bob Dixon was not able to get a run on him. A little bit of a gap now from Tom up to Brian Lavelle. Lavelle with the 6 of Wiley Cote, who appears to want to be making a move there on the top side, but no takers to go up there with him just yet. Single file all the way back through this lead pack. Last driver in this group, I do believe, is the 39 of Josh Metallic. And that would be the 21st position right now. Oh, we got a spinner. Knopfsker around. I don't think the caution
Yes, it
came
is
out
out.
for
It's
it.
out. It's out.
It did. All right, so the caution is indeed out. 4th time tonight, and that black smoke that I just saw coming out from underneath the 088, did that truck just blow up in the middle of the pack?
I will find out for you. Yes, he did. He blew up right in the middle of the pack, and that's why he got spun.
2nd playoff contender to have a mechanical failure here tonight in back-to-back yellows. Wow.
Well, these cars could definitely make it to the end now.
That is for sure. You see Bernie Mobbs throwing in the clutch there all the way through turn 4 as he's waiting for the pace car to pick him up. Let's go back and see what happened. And oh, we got another truck that's smoking. 7 of Cy Jones right now coasting on the apron through 1 and 2. His engine just expired, coming back to the caution.
Could be leftover damage from the big wreck.
That's the only thing I can assume. Let's first take a look at what happened to Novsker. I believe the spin that he had was courtesy of the 6 of Wiley Coat, who was right behind him. No reaction time when the engine went south on the 088. Yeah, there you see it. Backs up. Ryan Lavelle gets a hit there with the right front. There you see the caution coming out, and then we jump back here. There's Cy Jones. He had lost the pack, obviously off the pace with the damage. Making his way out of turn 4 here, coming back to receive the yellow flag, and much like we've seen with Milt Surratt and just then with Tim Novsker, no warning, no indication. And right here, coming to the start-finish
To be
line.
fair, we don't know if there was no indication. We're not looking inside the truck.
That's a good point, but right here, I believe it is, you're going to see that all of a sudden his engine goes on the Sunoco Chevrolet. And there's so many variables that can come into play too with why these drivers are now having the engine failures rather than earlier on in the race. One of the big things, Michael, is, you talked about the damage that they would have had from the wreck. If you're in draft, then you have an opportunity to have higher RPMs and run a higher speed, and your engine may not be prepared for something like that with the damage it sustained. If you're running all by yourself and you got clean air to the nose, then you don't have to necessarily worry about something like that. And that might be why we saw Novsker's engine go south, because he was up in a lead group.
Yeah, it's very, very, very possible. This game just doesn't give you a lot of warning when stuff like that's going to happen.
Caution out. We now know that this yellow flag is going to help everybody be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel. For drivers like Bernie Mobbs and Joe DeSpirito, Bob Seminara, they were able to gain track position with not coming to pit road under the last caution period. On the flip side, though, it didn't really seem to affect guys like Chuck McClure, Brian Schilling, who had come down pit road under that pacing period, because they were able to work their way back up towards the top 5. 6th and 7th is where those two drivers are currently running. So it kind of seemed like both strategies worked out in the favor of a few of our playoff drivers. And this caution is going to aid another of our playoff contenders in the fact that Kelly Causey, along with Bob Dixon, they are in the free pass positions. So even though he is very much so off the pace, Kelly Causey will be back on the lead lap, and we know at least 2 drivers that he will be passing, and that is Tim Novsker and Milt Surratt, a couple of playoff contenders. So, not exactly still an ideal situation heading to elimination race, but you know that you're not going to be the only one that's going to be in that bit of boat of desperation when we head into next week. Update on the bracket battle that is going on right now. Grant Wesley, Kelly Causey, that battle obviously right now going to Grant Wesley, who is in 9th.
I'm surprised.
Joe DeSpirito, Chuck McClure battle.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize for that. I just want to point out that it's great to see Grant, even after being involved in that wreck, back up into the top 10.
There's a couple of drivers that were involved in that wreck that are up here, surprisingly still
043?
up to speed. Yep, Brian Lavelle. I also noticed Mark Paglia. He was in the middle of all of that, and he's right now in 12th. Glenn Harris, he's in 13th. So there's quite a number of drivers that got some pretty significant contact, if not damage, from that huge one back on lap 13, that they're still soldiering on, and right now up inside the top 15, if not the top 10. But the other battle for the bracket, Joe DeSpirito, Chuck McClure, that's the best battle going on right now as far as the bracket's concerned, with DeSpirito right now in 2nd and Chuck McClure in 6th. And You think about the fact that we were talking about this down the home stretch of the regular season, but now it's the playoffs, and these drivers are keeping an eye on where they are in relation to their other playoff contenders. They're doing all the mathematical calculations in their head of how far they need to be ahead of the cut line, and we know that they also think about that bracket series. So tell you what, they must have a headache after these races with every single thing they have to manage, not only points wise, but then you've also got to manage, your race as well with the drivers around you, pit road, avoiding wrecks. I mean, I don't know, I'm getting a headache just thinking about it, just talking about it.
You should imagine me over here listening to it.
There's the lucky dogs going around, getting their laps back, Dixon and Causey. So we will have like 25 drivers that will be on the lead lap. Garage area filling up, whether it be drivers that received damage from our 2 previous cautions for incident or from our 2 previous cautions, our 2 latest cautions for mechanical problems. It's like Tim Knopfsker will be scored in 26th, Cy Jones 27th, Terry Bombard 28th, Milt Surratt 29th, Herlin Hurst 30th, and then Wayne Pribnow, Nathan Balzer, Ken Roberts, all those drivers listed, they are back in the garage area. It'll be, 11 to go, I believe, when we get back here to the start-finish line. All of our remaining playoff contenders that are on the track are on the lead lap. A couple that were a little bit behind the 8 ball prior to a few of these cautions coming out. Josh Metallic, he got a lucky dog a few cautions ago. He's up to 17th. And Rodney Sullins, who was very close to going a lap down after we had that cycle of green flag pit stops, he is now in the 14th position. So keep an eye on the 38 and the 39 in the closing stages. I believe both of those drivers are up to speed and might have something to say about this first checkered flag of the playoffs.
Gonna have 11 laps to go on their restart.
Pace truck to pit road. Maybe for the last time today. We'll have to wait and see. Bernie Mobbs, Joe DeSpirito. They're going to make up the first row with Seminara and Palmer behind them. Which line's going to get the momentum this time? On the last restart, it was DeSpirito pushing Bernie Mobbs. Now they're going to be side by side, trying to be the first one to turn one. Up through the gears they go, and the 24 was ready, and the 22 gave him a heck of a shot. DeSpirito might be the leader by the time we even get to the entry of turn one, and he is.
I'm not sure if Bernie Mobbs maybe missed a shift.
Certainly was caught napping, it would appear, did not time it,
Well,
but now
no,
the inside line battles back again.
He's got it cleared, he's just got to move up.
See if Seminara can get up there with him, or will he not have a lane to the middle? Not quite going to be able to do it, and he's getting a big shove from behind by Demar in the 43, Richard Martin. Look at the third lane. We haven't really said that much tonight here, Michael. They've been mostly double wide, but now we're going 3 wide around the 10th position. That's Brian Lavelle and Mark Paglia.
It's the end of the race. It's about time that you're going to see that happen here. Oh, here comes Chuck McClure now jumping up there.
Chuck McClure's got a fast truck, and he's going to go where there are no trucks in front of him. High, wide, and handsome here into turn one. That's 3 wide for the second position. Bernie Mobb stays committed to the middle, but he may have drivers to left and right by the time we get to the backstretch.
Drivers back there trying to figure out which lane to go in.
Grant Wesley moving around a couple of lanes there as look at the 17 on that top line right against the wall. He will edge ahead into turn 3. Here come the 2 lower lanes back alongside once again, but I think that momentum's going to be up on the top side when they head to the tri-oval straightaway. Who leads the lap? Right now, visibly looks like McClure is ahead, and he's going to get it by about a splitter, maybe a little more than that. 11 1/1000ths is what our telemetry said that time, but look at the middle line. Pushing back ahead here through 1 and 2. Joe DeSpirito going to get Bernie Mobbs out clear of all 3 lanes. And the inside line now is a lonely place. Bob Seminara and Richard Martin. They're going the wrong way. The only 2 trucks there. Now Martin's going to move up to the middle line, leaving Seminara all to his lonesome. We've seen this so much in the past. The middle line is the preferred line right between those white hash marks, and this double wide battle is taking place between those 2 set hash marks. They are sharing a lane together, side by side, not much room being given either.
Just keeping it going. Middle lane working good for now. Chuck's gonna try to battle back on the outside, but we'll see what happens. Everyone's trying to stay together here.
When we've talked in the past to Joe DeSpirito and Bob Seminara, who have both picked up victories this season, they said their next goal is to try and get Bernie Mobbs a victory to advance him into the playoffs. Well, the playoffs are here. He is into the playoffs, but would the 24 stay committed to the 31 to try and get him his first win on the season and that automatic ticket to the next round? Obviously, I would have to think as we get closer into this race, DeSpirito wants that opportunity for himself as well. So, do you stay committed to the driver in front of you, or are you planning to make a move at any point? Oh, we got a warper there, second truck in line. That's Brian Lavelle, and that's going to stifle that entire outside line. McClure's going to start losing ground as he had to check way up to avoid getting hooked in the left rear. Paglia got stacked up as well. Now that inside line's going to forge ahead. Mobbs, DeSpirito, Palmer to third, Rodney Sullins into fourth, and now John Godfrey has moved up into the top 5 for the first time tonight.
Man, can Greg Palmer pull out this victory? He's in a good spot for it.
Greg Palmer was a driver that last week had an opportunity to point his way into the playoffs, but we did not see him in the field. Here tonight, though, a very experienced restrictor plate racer could play spoiler for all of the playoff contenders. Remember, if the 22 wins, then that means that no driver, no playoff contender automatically advances into the next round. They would have to rely on points next week or a victory next week.
Absolutely. And we're 6 laps to go.
Brian Lavelle, we saw him have the connection problems, and he just brought it down pit road and retired out of the race, not wanting to be a factor into the outcome of this race in terms of maybe a warp wreck. And now the leader is side-to-side warping.
I blame the weather.
Well, that could actually be a part of it. Bernie Mobbs, a Floridian, and you were talking about before the broadcast. Oh, John Godfrey, big hit. No caution.
And he kept it up there.
Is he going to be able to keep that thing going forward, though? If he comes to a stop, the race would probably see a caution. No yellow yet as the truck is still rolling. That would have probably been a race-ending caution, too. We would have raced back to the start-finish line, and the race would have ended under yellow. So credit to Godfrey to being able to keep it pointed straight and keep forward momentum.
Chris Elliott just got launched up the track, but he's managed to save it without hitting the wall.
Boy, we are Bernie playing Mobbs with fire right now. These guys are trying to end this race under yellow.
Bernie Mobbs has to block 2 lanes of traffic here.
Greg Palmer and Rodney Sullins on that inside line working together. They've got Richard Martin as well. Only 3 trucks formulated on the bottom. You've got about 5 or 6 trucks on the top side, and then a third line being formed by Chris Elliott, but no help for the 9.
Well, I'm sure at some point there will be. Somebody comes up with him.
I'll tell you where there might be a third line forming. Watch that 17 truck of Chuck McClure. You can bet he wants to get around the top 2 at some point here. And now we're into that point of the race, Michael, too, where it said a caution would end the race. You've got to time your move because who knows? The next lap could be the last lap, even though the white flag may not be out.
It's very true, and you just got to keep an eye out. These trucks all over the place here. They're going 3 wide, coming to 3 laps to go here. And I don't know, Seth. They're all over the place. They're trying.
3 more circuits around Talladega
right
Mark
Paglia
now.
Up here. Look at him on the inside here.
3 of your top 5 are playoff contenders. The 31, the 24, actually, correction, 4 of them. The 31, the 24, the 17, and the 712. Right now, all nose to tail. Then you've got the non-playoff drivers of Palmer, Wiley Cope, Mark Paglia trying to play spoiler here tonight.
The 31 has not won, right?
He has not. Our streak would advance to 11 if he closes out the deal here tonight. Indifferent drivers going to victory lane here this season.
Man,
But
I
he's
don't know. I
still
don't know who
got
to
a
pull
little
for.
more than 5 miles. And this is making me a little worried too, this side-to-side warping.
That might be making everyone else too. Will they tell him to get out of line though? That's the question.
It's the closing stage of the race. You can't tell a driver that's leading the race to drop to the back. That's just not a thing that racers do. As right now,
there it is. There it is. There's the wreck.
Hit. That's
This is
the
it.
94 up and over the 43.
This
We're
is it.
racing
This is
back
the
to
race
the
for the
checkers
yellow.
here. This is the race back to the caution, back to the checkers. Chuck McClure shoving Joe DeSpirito into the corner, trying to make a move here. He'll stick it to the bottom on the 24, but I don't think he'll get to the 31.
Oh,
Up
there's
the
another
middle
wreck.
and big hits. Big wreck. Palmer, DeSpirito. They race back to the caution.
The white flag, the yellow and white flag. Bernie Mobbs has won this race. Bob Seminara second, and Rodney Sullins third.
Wow. DeSpirito was definitely playing defense for the 31. McClure trying to move them out of the way to get the win through the tri-oval. And Bernie Mobbs, provided he can, under pacing, get back around here to the start-finish line, not only will he get his first win on the season, he will also automatically advance into the next round of the playoffs. And Michael, can you believe I'm saying this? Will advance our streak to 11 races this season, 11 different drivers going to victory lane.
Let's just hope his engine doesn't blow.
You hopefully did not just jinx that. We will be going back. We will be looking at the incidents here on the back straightaway and the front straightaway, coming to the caution and the proverbial checkered flag. We're going to stay here with the 31. Make sure he indeed does cross the start-finish line and officially win this race. One thing I'm a little bit concerned about here, Michael, was something I talked about at the beginning of this race. If you're a playoff contender, you do not want to be involved in a race-ending caution. And that contact that we saw there between the 17 and the 24, if we look back at the replay, I think it might be on the 17, and there were 21 drivers.
Well, the 94 was taking, I think, the original wreck.
Right, but I think even incidents under caution would end up having to be claimed, I would assume.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
We'll
but Bernie Mobbs wins to officially take the checkered flag.
How about that? Bernie Mobbs, who pointed his way into the playoffs, has now won his way into the next round. One of the few Dodges in the field. I'll have to check and see. I think this is actually the first win for Dodge this season in the Tally Challenge.
I would be. No, isn't the no? He was a Toyota or Chevy, wasn't he? I was thinking about the 43.
43, yeah, he's a Chevrolet. Matter of fact, you had 3 Dodges finish up inside the top 5 tonight, 4 of them up inside of the top 10. So a good night for the Dodge machines. You see the congratulations that were being given there to Bernie Mobbs. And a couple of popular wins that have taken place the last couple of weeks. Kelly Causey with his first career victory to close out the regular season, and now Bernie Mobbs, his first victory on the season. It's not the first victory of his career, though. He does have previous victories here in the Tally Challenge, but first of the season to kick off the postseason, as he's going to be bringing it around to the start-finish line here. And he will get to do victory burnouts in front of the fans here at Talladega Superspeedway. But, yeah, I mean, going back to the Chuck McClure thing, we will be obviously looking back at replays, but if the incident is called on him, we had 20 or 21 drivers on the lead lap. If that ends up turning out to be a post-race penalty, that's a lot of points that he is going to lose heading into next week.
Yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens.
So let's check here as the celebration continues for the leaf filter Dodge of Bernie Mobbs. Let's go back and first see what happened on the back straightaway. We had quite a number of drivers that caught some air there. I believe I saw the 94, the 143, I think, was up and over. There's a third truck that also was flipping. Let's see where this one starts. Might have started with the 94 of Jesse Klein. Coming out of turn 2. Chris Elliott in the 9 is behind him. Richard Martin, the 43, above him. Oh, and Martin was moving low to avoid the lap truck of Jeffries. Line pushed up off the bottom. The two make the contact, and wild ride there. Paglia was the other truck that I saw up and over. There you see him spinning down the inside of the back straightaway. We'll take another look at it here. Like a 3-truck incident at most there. Focus on the 43 of Martin. Well, Jeremy Jeffries got a little piece of it there too. Oh, Brian Schilling. Little contact to the hood. That 94 caught some big time air while upside down. Went a couple of feet down the back straightaway with the roof pointed to the racing surface. And then this is racing back to the caution. See if we can get up there in time. Yeah, this is the contact there. McClure up into DeSpirito, Greg Palmer, Wiley Coate. Everybody scattering, trying to make their way by to the start-finish line to pick up those spots. Mike Rogers, Hart into the inside wall there. Palmer, I believe, was able to cross the start-finish line in the 12th position despite that engine going south on him. See how Mike was involved, see who he ended up hitting.
There's a lot that happened in that last 2 laps to go there.
We're going to be looking at an aerial view here. See about the contact between the 17 and the 24 in just a moment. Don't see the... There's the 011. He's just now entering into view. I don't know if he hit anybody or not. Or if he maybe just caught the grass with the left side tires and it sent him into a spin. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what happened. He never hit anybody. But he went down as low as he could to avoid Wiley Coate, and back into the truck, steps out on him. He slides across the start-finish line in the 13th position. And now let's take a look at the aerial view. 17 of McClure was just kind of boxed in, and he was doing whatever he could to fight his way back up there, try and get this checkered flag. He had led a race-high 34 laps tonight. Had one of the fastest trucks in the field. Here it was. Trying to side draft the 24. You know, as I look at it there, you know, the 17 was certainly pinching the 24 up, but it looks like he might have gotten hooked in the right rear by the 22 of Greg Palmer. Take another look here, see if we can onboard the 22. As I think that Chuck McClure may not have been the initial contact that led to that race-ending yellow. Here's another look. On board with the 22 car, there's contact there. Now watch when the 17 comes back up. The 22 is there. That's going to be an interesting one to call, I think, for the admins. Is it a case of the 22 coming down or the 17 coming up that led to the 17 getting hooked? Who knows? We may not know until next week, so we will obviously give you the old hat of tune in next week to find out. So let's take a look at our finishing results from this evening's race. Hobbs with the victory. Manera in second, Rodney Sullins third. So playoff drivers comprise our podium. Bob's obviously the only one we know for certain is going to advance into the round of 8. The other one's going to be in good position points-wise heading into the first elimination race next week. Chris Elliott, great run there for the pole sitter. Led the first 5 laps of this race, had connection problems. but fought his way back up for fourth. Brian Schilling, he had an adventurous day, as we've well documented, and he's going to bring it home in fifth. So we had four of our playoff contenders up inside the top five. Dave Melson and Glenn Harris, they're going to be sixth and seventh. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. Weren't those the two that were flipping up on top of the inside wall in the back straightaway when the first caution came out? And they somehow were able to get top 10 finishes.
I told you, never counted them out. Never
That
count them out at
is
all.
That is very, very impressive there for both of those drivers. Grant Wesley, nice comeback run for him after he was involved in that big wreck there for our second caution of the day. He'll get 8, so he'll get some pretty good points towards the playoffs. Jeff Crivello and Tom Dixon, nice runs for both of those drivers who are not battling for the championship. McClure tentatively crossed the line in the 11th position. Greg Palmer was 12th. 13th for Mike Rogers, Joe DeSpirito 14, so he lost a ton of positions with that wreck. Wiley Coate finished in 15th, and the rest of the drivers to finish on the lead lap were your top 20, Bob Dixon, Mark Paglia, Josh Metallic back in 18th place, so certainly better than where he was about 20 laps into the race, but going to be trying to get some more points next week to advance is the defending champ, Jessica Shelton and Jesse Klein, completed the top 20. Richard Martin was a lap down in 21st. Jeremy Jeffries, 22nd. Kelly Causey was the last driver to finish the race. And as you look at the drivers that DNF'd, obviously Causey finishing a lap down, Nofsker with the engine failure, Milt Surratt with the engine failure. These are drivers for certain, Michael, heading to next week. They're not in must-win situations, but they are certainly in must-finish-well positions with it being an elimination race.
Oh yeah, and it's gonna bring up the passion out of them very much for the next couple of races because they've got to win, they've got to get up there, and they've got to finish good.
And a lot of times when it comes to super speedway racing, that might be a hard ask because not only are you trying to control your destiny, but your destiny is also in the hands of the other drivers around you, as well as this very unpredictable racetrack. But three drivers that can breathe some sighs of relief, whether it be some good points day for them, or in the case of Bernie Mobbs, an automatic ticket into the next round. We're going to talk with them right now, and let's kick things off with the guy that brings it home, P3, Rodney Sullins. Hey, Rodney, it's Michael and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I sure do, guys.
Well, man, I'll tell you what, a wild way to end off what was really a wild race overall here tonight. I mean, we saw a little bit of everything. We saw maybe the biggest wreck we've seen all season. We saw green flag pit stops come into play. We saw mechanical problems. We saw a caution that kind of put all of you guys on the same page of making it on fuel. And then it came down to that final restart to the checkered flag. I mean, we knew that when the playoffs began, the intensity was going to ratchet up even more. Could you feel that from the cockpit of that 38 all night long?
Oh, absolutely. It was intense from start to finish. It was a crazy, crazy night, as you guys had a front row seat for. But yes, you could tell there was some chatter going on. Everybody was kind of ready to get the chase going and wanting to get a good start. And then with all those cautions coming out, there was a lot of chase trucks involved. I was in one of them. Some of them were tore up really bad, and I got a little bit of damage, but managed to hang on. But yeah, that was the chatter all night.
And what was going through your mind after seeing that huge accident that early on in the race?
I'm trying to remember if I was in that one. If that was the one I was in, I was just doing everything I could to try to avoid a hard impact and just working my way around, trying to watch for trucks as I spin but it was kind of crazy. Trucks going everywhere. I seen chase trucks flying. I'm just like, keep this thing together, and maybe we can get a good finish out of it.
You know, when we talked to a bunch of you drivers at the beginning of the season of what the mentality was in preparation to try and make your way into the playoffs, we obviously heard anything from, go out there and get that win, that automatic lock into the playoffs, to if you can't win, make sure you at least get the maximum amount of points you can with a good finish. Does the mentality change at all now here in the playoffs? Is there more of a need to win, or is it now more of a need for consistency and getting those points?
Consistency definitely is the goal when I start the races. That's the goal, is to be consistent, finish up front. If that puts me in victory lane, then obviously that's a giant bonus, to get that automatic move to the next round. But my goal right now, I think, if I can finish top 5, top 10, and closer to the top 3 like tonight, then I like my chances.
Well, certainly a great finish for you here tonight. Should put you in a good position points-wise to advance your way into the round of 8 next week. Certainly going to be looking forward to seeing if you can maybe win your way in with some more bonus points, or as we saw here tonight, get a good consistent finish to advance. And Rodney, now we're going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Thank you guys. The broadcasting you guys do is phenomenal. I love watching it. Thanks to Dave Cannon, Sean Prime, and all the admins and staff at Rolling Thunder Gaming Racing. I love this place. But I'd like to thank the guys back at my Burnt Screwdrivers Racing. All these guys. I know Greg Palmer and John Godfrey helped me there tremendously at the end. I wouldn't have been where I was at if it wasn't for John Godfrey. I thank Black Rifle Coffee, Red Hots, Rossi Racing Seats. And again, thank you guys. I appreciate y'all.
Well, a great way to start off the playoffs for playoff contender Rodney Sullins. P3 here tonight in the playoffs opener. Congratulations once again. A great run. Best of luck next week.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Rodney Sullins will be heading into next week's elimination race, 4th in the current playoff standings, currently 17 points ahead of the cut line. Let's talk with another driver that heads into next week as the current points leader for the playoffs, although he is not yet locked into advance, but another good points night as well. Very good consistent run once again for the second place driver, Bob Seminara. Hey, Bob, Michael and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
How you doing, boys? I got you.
Well, man, I'll tell you what a crazy last couple of laps there for you. We saw you up at the front there, inside of the top 3 or 4 on that final restart. You started fading to the back with no help on the bottom. Next thing we know, all heck breaks loose on that final lap of green flag competition, and we see you cross the line in second place. You got a front row seat of what happened up there inside the top 5. I mean, what was it like from inside the cockpit of your 712 machine? Did you expect that that was going to take place, and did you have a contingency plan in place to avoid it all?
Wow, yeah, that was crazy. I mean, yeah, I was stuck on the bottom there, but we had the third lane. I thought we were going to be good, but I think it was just Demar there. And then he bailed on me, so I had to get back in. Yeah, I mean, Bernie was up there, so that was good. And yeah, I got crazy off of 4. Bernie was warping a little bit, and I think, I don't know, they kind of just got jumbled up there trying to get around him. So I got through it, so I'll take it.
Now I asked Rodney this. I got to ask you too. Your thoughts on seeing that absolutely huge track blocking accident early on? What was going through your head?
Yeah, there was one early on that cars were going everywhere. I mean, I've had a good season, so I mean, you're gonna get those breaks and get through there. It's so crazy, Hopefully, it don't catch up to me till after the season, but yeah, there's some close calls for sure.
Obviously we know that with the rather small playoff rounds, only 2 races in each round, there's very little room for error. You really can't afford to have a bad race. Here tonight, runner-up finish, going to have some good points. You're the points leader still heading into next week. Right now, we've got you calculated 33 points ahead of that 8th in the standings cut line. So obviously a little bit of breathing room, but how does this change the mentality for next week? Is next week just kind of ride and preserve those points, or do you go out there, try and see if you can snag yourself a second victory on the season, carry some more bonus points into the next round?
Well, going in as the leader and having a little cushion over some of these guys that I know probably have to win now. There's some good guys back there that probably need a win. Top 10's fine. I'm not going to do anything stupid. Hopefully I survive, get away from a big one and a bad finish. I'm not going to be overly aggressive. I'll take what they give me, but I know some guys are going to be aggressive.
You talk about some drivers heading next week in the must-win situation. I just want to branch off of that for a moment. We said coming into tonight, we expected that with it now being the start of the playoffs and 13 drivers in close proximity here at a super speedway, we were going to expect to see the aggressiveness kick up, and we ended up seeing that culminate in that big wreck back around lap 13. Do we anticipate to see just as aggressive racing next week, just based on, as you said, there are going to be some drivers that'll be racing in somewhat desperation mode to advance into the next round?
Oh yeah, it's an elimination race, so I think it's going to be hectic. But yeah, you got guys like Tim back there. I think Donnie's coming back next week. Grant, Demar, Joe's probably tight now too. So there's some guys that are proven that yeah, they're going to be running hard next week. So it should be wild.
It'll be a lot of fun to watch for sure. Basically, not even going to bother to work the calculator next week since I think a lot of those points and positions will be changing quite often. But Bob, you got yourself in a good position heading into that elimination next week with this runner finish here tonight. Congratulations. And now we'll give it the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout outs.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, congrats to Bernie. That's a well-deserved win there. Mobs Motors, Q at work, FRN, RTG. I love racing here. And yeah, we'll be back next week. Do it again.
Second place performance here tonight to open up the playoffs for Bob Seminara. Congratulations once again. Best of luck next week as you continue to try to make your road towards the round of 8.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Well, I'm certain the celebration has not ended yet, but let's see if we can break into it and talk with tonight's race winner, Bernie Mobs. Hey, Bernie, Michael and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got a copy?
Sure do. How's it going?
Well, man,
Man,
I'll
I'm
tell you
telling you,
what. What a time to get your first win of the season, man. You pointed your way into the playoffs, and now you're locked into the round of 8, but it couldn't have been easy. I keep saying this. I wish we had heart monitors for you guys because I would have loved to have known the heart rate that was going on inside of your Dodge in those final closing stages. I mean, was there any type of worry going on with you having those guys behind you slicing the dice and double and three wide?
Oh yeah, I couldn't watch the mirror enough. It was crazy. I just figured, I mean, when you're in the lead like that, you know everybody's going everywhere. So, heart rate was probably about nice, cool 140. It slowed down to about 130 now.
man, I'll tell you, 11 different winners. You being the 11th different winner now, and with this victory tonight, I'm curious more on your thoughts of the entire race in general. From where you started to how you got to victory lane, just from start to finish. What was going through your head?
Well, I knew I had to be careful, and I managed to avoid the first little wreck on the first lap there, and everything went pretty smooth. I had good pit stops. I didn't get any trouble, and ended up near the front and at the end. So it was fun.
What about the calamity of that big wreck after the lap one wreck? Like, yeah, I asked this for the other previous two for you, which is what was going through your head when you saw that big wreck happen.
Well, just glad I wasn't in it. It was going on behind me, so I just buckling down.
We talked just moments ago with runner Fisher Seminara, and he's anticipating to see just as aggressive racing next week as we saw here tonight, especially with the fact that next week is an elimination race. Now, you've got the pressure off of you. You know you're advancing into the round of 8. So, what is the goal for the 31 truck when the green flag flies next week?
Well, like I say, I've got it locked up, so I'll probably be careful, but still go for it. I still like the points.
Certainly going to be a lot of fun to see what you're able to do. Obviously, it's a lot easier to super speedway race when you've got the pressure off of you and not having to calculate points or anything. So Bernie, congratulations on a job well done here tonight. Kept that truck out in front when it mattered the most in the closing stages. You become our 11th different winner on the season. You advance into the playoffs, and now we got one final task for you here tonight. We're handing the mic over to you for some victory lane. Thank you, sponsors and shout outs.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. First of all, I'd thank Flatout Racing for putting this all out there. Thank all the guys at RTG, admins, and drivers for putting on great racing. And I'll be back next week. Thanks again.
That's Bernie Mobs, a big victory here tonight to advance into the round of 8 for the playoffs. He's your victor in the opener for the playoffs here tonight at Talladega. Congratulations once again, and best of luck next week.
Thank you very much. See you guys then.
Bernie Mobbs, the latest winner in the 56th season of the RTG Talladega Challenge. And Michael, the point standings are in. Here's what it looks like heading into our first elimination race of the season. Bernie Mobbs, we know, is already locked in, so we're going to set him aside and focus on the drivers now that are going to have to keep themselves either in via points or move their way in via points. We talked with Bob Seminara, mentioned that he is right now the overall points leader for the playoffs, 33 points ahead of the cut line. Chuck McClure right now sits in second. He's 20 points ahead of the cut line. Brian Schilling, 18 points ahead of the cut line in third. And Rodney Sullivan's our third place finisher here tonight. He's fourth in points. He is 17 points ahead of the cut line. Here's where it starts getting interesting because Bernie Mobbs right now would be scored in fifth, but he's already locked in with the win. Sixth is Josh Metallic. He's only 4 points ahead of the cut line. Joe DeSpirito, he's only 1 point ahead of the cut line in seventh, and the cut line driver right now heading into the elimination race would be Grant Wesley in eighth. Richard Martin right now is ninth. He's 7 points behind the cut line. Tim Knopfsker is 8 points back in 10th. Kelly Causey sits 19 points back in 11th. Milt Surratt is 22 points back in 12th. And then Donnie Garrett, who we did not see in the field here tonight, he'll be back next week. Because of not making the start, he will be in a 38-point deficit to the cut line. That's right now, by my count, Michael, maybe 3 or 4 drivers that are in the must-win situation to advance their way either into the playoffs or to make their way at least up inside of the top 8. And if anything, tonight was an indication a lot of these playoff contenders are going to have to be in survival mode maybe in the first half of next week's race.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to see those drivers race with more aggression than we have seen before. I mean, and it's going to come down to even the random qualifying to where it puts them at. I mean, they're going to try to go out and get as many bonus points as they can and then just try to stay at the front. And they're going to be pretty desperate for it.
What do you think? The random qualifying maybe going to play its biggest part this season? We know that it kind of played a big part into the regular season finale for guys that were trying to point their way in or win their way in. But do you think it's got even more of a prevalent role when we get to an elimination race next week?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Going to be a lot of fun to see who's going to advance and who is going to be the first drivers eliminated. 8 will move on. Bernie Mobbs is the only one we know for certain right now is locked in. 5 drivers will be eliminated when the checkered flag waves next week. And if you enjoyed tonight's playoff opener, you're definitely going to want to tune in to next week's race, the second race of the playoffs. Also want to congratulate Grant Wesley and Joe DeSpirito. Looks like those two, actually, nope, hold on. It is actually Grant Wesley and Chuck McClure right now that have advanced into round 7 of the bracket series. So they will take on each other next week. Winner then the following week will take on Brian Schilling. And then the winner of that round will, of course, take on the winner of the winner's bracket, Bob Seminara. So it's getting down towards the end of that bracket challenge as well. Getting closer to the finals. But once again, congratulations to Bernie Mobbs on the victory here tonight. He, along with 7 others, will be advancing into the round of 8 next week. A wild way to open up the playoffs, Michael. Appreciate you joining the booth here tonight.
Absolutely. I'm glad I can be here again.
The playoffs continue here for the RTG Talladega Challenge next Thursday night. It is race number 2 of the playoffs, elimination round number 1. And it'll be coming to you next Thursday night with the green flag scheduled to fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do not miss it. For Michael Norman, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your evening, folks, as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support